One of the things we talk about regularly here on the Powerful Communication podcast is the power of words and the way that the use of language can sometimes help you win an argument or influence people. Let's go back to the early days of vaping, or as they were called at the time, electronic cigarettes. And one of the things that the vaping companies wanted to do was break the association that some people have that vaping or electronic cigarettes or e-cigs are as bad as cigarettes. So what they had to do was remove the word cigarette from the product. So electronic cigarettes or e-cigs, which were useful in the early days because they helped the customer base. If you were smoking a cigarette, they helped tell the story, well, it looks just the same, but it's safer. It's got fewer harmful chemicals in it. All right, well, I'll swap my cigarette for an electronic cigarette or an e-cig. And then, of course, the health campaigns started, and they were saying, look, it's still nicotine, it's still lots of chemicals. We're not really sure just how safe they are. We don't really think you should be using these, and we certainly don't think children should be using them. These things can still be harmful. So then, of course, the manufacturers, they start changing the terminology, and so e-cigs become vaping, which sounds less harmful, sounds more neutral, takes it away from the word cigarette. It's interesting also what we're starting to see now in terms of discussion around climate change, because climate change is a fairly neutral phrase. I mean, if you knew nothing about the topic, you might think that climate change could be positive. There's nothing inherently bad about change. And so what we're starting to see now is a toughening up of the language to reflect what a lot of people would consider to be a terrible crisis and a terrible danger, a fairly catastrophic path that we're on, and things don't really seem to be getting better. We used to, before climate change became the default, there was a lot of talk about global warming. And I think over the last few years that's been lost. The climate change has come to the fore. Lots of people taking climate change very seriously. They're on board with it. But I think there's a feeling that perhaps they're not taking it seriously enough. We've maybe become a bit too familiar, a bit too complacent with the phrase climate change. What we're starting to pick up on now is the use of the phrase global heating. Global heating. And I think you'll start to see that much more now coming through the media, coming through what the science is saying, coming through what the health bodies are saying. Again, even tougher than climate emergency, I think global heating is going to become this phrase. They really want to get across this imagery that the climate, that the planet, our planet, is burning up. And I think global heating is the phrase that they're going to use in order to achieve it. Now, in case the Knickers and the Twist Brigade are listening, this is not a podcast about my views on smoking or whether we're taking climate change seriously enough or not. I'm just pointing out the use of the language. And I just want you to recognise that there's a power in that language and be aware of it, and then think about what that means for you.